what I'm hearing from you though is that you see there some possible scenario.
I see value to the network, assuming it is dividing and transferring something. Not just Monero, because Monero is the system. You have to fill the system with something inside it to transfer.
It's the value that people are attributing to the system at that time.
Yeah. I can't. That goes back in on itself again. I can't. Okay. Hey guys, Rafi here from the Endgame Investor, and today I've got with me Douglas Tuman of Monero Talk YouTube channel, and he is a Monero enthusiast. As you know, I have nothing against any cryptocurrencies. I wish them the best, and Doug will give you his position on that. And as normal, as I usually do on these interviews, I want to hear Doug's story and how he got into sound money, what brought him into this, what he's seeing in the world. That was it one moment of realization? Was it gradual? Anyway, Doug, welcome to the Endgame Investor, and I'm glad to have you.
Thanks for having me, man. People reached out to me in the Monero community that watch my show, and they're like, "You got to go on this guy Rafi's show." He's like, "You got to talk to Rafi."
Oh, I wouldn't call it a show. I don't have a show. I'm just a guy who, wants to interview people and give my $2, I guess, or 2 ounces of gold on money, whatever you would call it. I want to get to know the people in the movement, whatever part of sound money movement they're on. Because I really think that among all of the investment communities, we are among the most interesting, probably the most interesting pack of people in investing, because we have real moral positions on things, which gives animation to an investment decision. It's not like, oh, I think this is going to go up, so I'm going to buy it. Okay, fine, but where are you coming from? So, so Doug, how did you get into this? When did you get into the idea of sound money, and what led you to Monero specifically, and what do you think about precious metals?
Yeah, so that's really interesting, because I didn't come at it as somebody who's interested in sound money. I was my day job. I'm a civil engineer. I work for a local municipality. I'm basically in charge of a portion of the infrastructure in a municipality, so completely non crypto related type stuff. I'm an attorney as well, so I'm an engineer, I'm an attorney, and I would always just kind of explore the what was going. I was always interested about tech and what was going on with the internet, and kind of what the next thing was, what's coming after Facebook, whatever. I was always very interested in the internet itself. And thinking about the next stages. And Bitcoin was created. Read about it a few times, saw that it claimed to be kind of a digital cash, and I thought, not possible. I've seen attempts at it in past, this idea of having kind of a bare digital asset that you can pass through that, but it would always die, right? It would always fail, because essentially all these attempts at it were centralized. And so I always thought it'd be cool to have digital money. So when I saw Bitcoin, I just assumed it's just another one of these attempts that it's going to fail and it's centralized. Bought my first crypto. It was actually Dogecoin. I remember the day. It was December, Christmas Eve, December 13th. I had no idea what it was. I just bought it because I figured I missed I was just watching the Bitcoin numbers, right? Without understanding the tech. Wow, look, maybe I could turn $50 worth of Dogecoin into $5,000.
Yeah.
And I used PayPal to buy some Doge, not understanding any of it. I woke up the next morning, all my Doge was gone. I had stored it in an online wallet, which is like the #1 thing not to do, right? Hold your own keys. I had no idea what that even, that wasn't even a term back then, 2013, right? So I was like, wow, this doesn't make any sense. I'm like, oh, people are into this Bitcoin thing. They must just be losing money left and right. This technology makes no sense. That set me down the rabbit hole, because I started reading about Bitcoin. I read the Satoshi white paper. I was like, oh my God, this thing is decentralized. And it took me a long time and that was like the real eureka. I'm super excited about this moment when I realized they figured out how to create a network, a truly decentralized network, nothing like we've ever seen before, right? So I couldn't even really, that was kind of the real breakthrough. And then I started thinking about, wow, how is this going to affect the world in general? What does this mean for companies in the future? And the money I saw is kind of the first killer app, right? So here's something that they were able to accomplish with this new decentralized tech, create money that was detached from any corporation or government. And then so my mission then became to figure out which one was doing that the best, trying to figure out which one essentially was the most decentralized and was the most resistant to any type of corporate or nation state control. And that's what finally led me to Monero.
Okay, here's the question. Look, we've seen, I'm not sure how familiar you are with the Austrian economics school of thought and its theories on money. So basically, when you say that they're trying to make a decentralized system of money, I can't really agree with that academically speaking, and the academics has an implication for reality because, look, the basic theory is that in order to know prices, in order to know how much whatever anything costs, you have to link it back to yesterday. Okay, and so prices have to have a reference point into the past, and it has to keep going since the beginning of economic time, which is the beginning of all transactions and whatever commodity is being transacted in. So basically the entire system array of prices that we have now has to go back to when gold and silver were originally used in barter transactions to make to eventually evolve into a monetary system where gold and silver were the primary commodity that you traded other things against. Okay, so whether it's Monero or any other cryptocurrency, it has to refer back to the dollar, because when Monero was invented, like the first transaction for Monero was, how many dollars are you going to give me for this Monero? And then somebody just said, okay, I'll give you whatever this dollar is for this Monero. And that was the first transaction. Bam, it's born. Okay. And then that gives the dollar price for Monero. And then from there, Monero can refer back to any product of goods and services, right? Now, if you do this mind experiment, right? Let's a thought experiment, right? Let's say we have like this Men in Black flash thingy, right? And it erases everybody's memory and all evidence of all prices of anything in the world. There's no evidence of any prices of anything in any terms, and nobody can reconstruct it. So then somebody says, okay, here's a Monero or 5 Monero, whatever, and how much is that table? No, there can't be any idea of anything because there's no reference point into the past. So then Monero cannot be money. In order for it to be a money substitute, it has to substitute for something that was a money the day before, which in this case was the dollar.
Yeah, so I mean, I totally get that. Number one, I'd say that's not a law of nature, right? This is some economic theory, which I think maybe perhaps captures a lot, makes sense in a lot of ways when you look at it, when you apply it to kind of the timeline of money. Sure.
Yeah, so hold on, one second.
Up to this point in time, wherein something called cryptocurrency was invented. And first of all, to go back to your analogy of the prices of everything, they all not go to zero, but we no longer know what they're.
Doug, one second. Keep answering and keep this line of thought. The point that I want your opinion on is what happens to Monero, right? When the dollar can no longer buy anything. Assuming that happens, what do you think happens? That Monero becomes exchangeable for goods directly? Like what happens then?
Monero is just the network. It's just a network, right? It's a network that allows people to communicate and allows them to basically come to agreement on what's on a ledger, right? On a big spreadsheet. And it's a network where you can come to agreement on what's on the ledger, and we're all essentially nodes on the ledger, and we can send each other units in this ledger, and which happens to be a great tool for money, because money essentially at the end of the day, in my mind, is a ledger, right? It's in one way or another that's what money is. It's what
ledger can represent money. That's
sure,
right.
But really, money itself represents a ledger. Right, that's what money really is. I mean, go to no money time. What was money then? It was realizing what you owed people, right? And you're keeping track of that in your own mind, on your own ledger. But essentially, that's what it is. I owe this guy this, I owe this guy that, I owe favors, right? That's what the earliest form of money was. There was no way it was anything otherwise, right? It was keeping track of who owed who what, which essentially at the day is a ledger. And that's all cryptocurrency is. It's all Bitcoin was. And the only difference between Bitcoin and Monero is in Monero, the ledger is obfuscated. So you can't see what's taking place on it at all. You can't see who the sender is. You can't see who the receiver is, and you can't see what the amounts of the address are,
Okay,
which then effectively makes it more like cash itself, like a bearer asset, like gold itself. And so when I pass it to you, it's like passing you a gold coin. It is broadcast to this network, but in such a way where the network can't identify what was broadcast, what and from what to whom. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's actually broadcast in a transparent way and you can see everything. So the end result is really something that does mimic gold or, just money, it's cash itself in digital form. And so then you have to ask yourself, is that a utility? Is that providing some utility that the world needs? We have the internet. We're all digital these days. There's no way you can do that with a pre-existing money like fiat or dollars or gold. So we need something to replicate that. And so Monero gets its value in the utility it offers as this decentralized network for transferring value peer-to-peer. So call that money, call it whatever you want, but what else are you going to do if you wanted to create some way for people to transfer value to each other peer to peer through the internet?
Okay. So let me just try to dissect. There are things that you said that I like, but still we're in disagreement about the core of what money is, and that's fine. I'm not going to try to convert you or anything like that. I just want to explain where what I liked about what you said and what is attractive about Monero for me from the information you just gave me. Okay, so let's say I'm a Canadian and I gave $5 to the truckers or whatever, and now my bank account is frozen, and I can't buy food and I can't okay, so can I Bitcoin? Okay, it's trackable. So I'm assuming that the government can go into the blockchain of Bitcoin and find out who's giving how much to who. And they have this whole bird's eye view of every single transaction and forget privacy, and it's all in hell. So you're saying they can't do that with Monero. There's no way they can find out who's giving what to who. And therefore there's good privacy. Okay, so then I would concede, if that's true, that Monero is a good way to divide money. I would not say that it is money itself. It is a good ledger technology with which to distribute and divide money. The question is, what is the money behind the Monero that is being divided? So this is where
this is where I would start to say, really don't think of it. Just think of it as a network that you have to give value to, right? So people are deciding how much a Monero is. Obviously, it's weighed against things outside of Monero, products, US dollars, whatever, meat, whatever somebody's willing to offer for a Monero. It can live out. I believe, I know, I guess this is where we kind of go in separate paths. It can live outside of pre-existing money and gold. It's just a system that people are using to communicate value. And its real value is coming from Metcalfe's law, from the network effect. And the more people that onboard to it and use it for the purposes of storing their money, the more value the network itself has. And that's attributed to the units within it going up in value. So that's the way I look at it. I look at it as a network that grows in value out of its own utility that it's offering as this ability to transfer value digitally, and that it's not necessarily, connected to the fiat dollar. Sure, currently it is because we live in a fiat world, but you could always use this system in the future for transferring value, and it could fundamentally take on its own worth relative to other things without being dependent on a pre-existing money.
Okay. Yeah, that's where we would diverge. But
I kind of have as a moot point anyway. I mean, the question is, do you think Monero today has value? And is this utility that the world is going to adopt and use, whether or not it technically can't be money because it didn't evolve directly? You know, like let's ignore that for the moment. The question is, if what you're saying basically make it impossible for Monero to have any real value and exist, and you're saying it's basically at the end of the day it's worthless and people are misusing it, or is it actually performing some utility, and because of that it's going to have value?
Oh, I mean, right now I would say sure, it is performing utility. Absolutely, all cryptocurrencies are performing some kind of a utility.
Well, no, I'd say most of them aren't. The vast majority are completely useless. They're speculative junk. It's like, you know, Beanie Babies or anything else, you know, any of these, and they really aren't really offering any utility. The ones that are the ones where you know that you can send value from person to person without any corporation or government somehow surveilling or disrupting that transaction. And there's value in the ability to do that. That's what I kind of see as the core value of crypto. And that's what Bitcoin started as, right? That's when people first really started to attribute value to Bitcoin, is when people saw they could do things with it that they weren't able to do with pre-existing technology, with credit cards or with cash. What did they do? They used it on dark markets. Oh wow, here's a way for us to send value, guys, without having to go through a credit card company that's going to, you know, block these transactions. We could use this network. Cool. And then it took off because of that. That was really what gave Bitcoin its first use. And the thing was, people were, it lacked in its ability to be used for that properly, but there was such a need for that. They used Bitcoin, but where Bitcoin was lacking is that it was transparent. That eventually caught up to a lot of those people who are using it for that purpose.
Okay, so let's go back to the truckers for
Sure.
a minute. Okay. So if my bank account is frozen in Canada, how can I buy things with okay, two questions. First of all, let's assume that Monero is now king of the crypto and everyone's using it. Okay, let's just assume that. Now I'm a trucker and I want to buy some food. Okay, and my bank account is frozen and Trudeau hates me and he's trying, you know, all that stuff. So how do I, when I transact and buy food, how does the government not see that? Why can't they come after me and say, oh, you just bought, you know, a Coke for, you know, half a Monero, or putting you in prison? Like, why can't they do that?
Well, yes. So, I mean, surveilling, you know, typically when they cut people off from the financial system, right? So the truckers were cut off, right? But that's like saying, what's stopping them from taking a duffel bag of cash and walking out the door and, you know, going to the deli and buying a sandwich and getting on the road and filling up their gas tank with, that's what cash is.
Let's assume cash is outlawed.
Well, exactly. No, this is exactly right. So we've always had cash, right? From days old, you could be on the run, but if you have cash or gold, right? We saw how gold was used during the wars as a store of value, the way people were able to preserve their wealth. Cash, same thing, right? Shit hits the fan. You got cash. It's always usable. In a world without cash, that's a very scary world, and that shows why we need this utility of digital cash. We need something to come in and replace cash, right? So that we can't be shut out, because when cash disappears, which inevitably it will, right? It's for one reason or another, we're not going to be using cash in the future. But we're going to really want that utility, because if you want to live in a free and open society, we're going to need a way for people to transact peer-to-peer, as they've always done in free and open societies. Essentially another means of practicing free speech, freedom of association, a way for people to get together and coordinate and, put funds towards something they believe in, whether it's building a company or supporting a political idea. We need people to be able to freely do that. A utility that allows for that the best will be adopted, because there's going to be a real need in a cashless society for some alternative. Back to the trucker thing just for one moment. That was a real eye opener, like you said, because that was all right. So dark markets is one way of looking at potential use case. Trucker convoy, here's another example. Whether you agree with what they were fighting for or not, the idea that they then turned to cryptocurrency out of a need to for this utility shows that it has a use. And then what was really interesting about that is we saw that Bitcoin essentially failed in its purposes of being used as a censorship resistant digital cash. You saw what went down. They were able to identify people, and then they were able to identify who was sending what to who. And then so it did two things. It showed that there's a need for that utility, and it showed that maybe Bitcoin is lacking and not able to actually serve that use case because of its lack of privacy.
So are people in Canada using Monero to buy things? I mean, the problem is the government can just go to any retail store and say, look, you cannot accept Monero. And if you have any services that turn Monero into fiat currency, we'll put you in prison.
Sure, yeah, sure. The government could do that. They could ban Monero. I'm sure people will still use it for purposes of sending each other value on the internet, right? So it will kind of go back into the recesses of the internet again and just being used as a niche thing. But eventually it will prevail, because not every government everywhere is going to ban Monero. It's just not a likely scenario. That's not how governments typically work, right? They're competing against each other too. So eventually it's gonna pop out and reel its head, and where it does, people are going to flock to it. It's kind of like the internet, right? Where we saw where there's places where they were restrictive with usage of the internet, and there's places where they let it grow and blossom. And obviously those places that really embraced the internet did the best. So we're going to see the same thing with this type of network. So tomorrow, if Trudeau made it illegal, sure, that would be kind of a bump in the road, but it's not going to stop Monero. You can't dictate what governments do, but you can build a technology that's as resistant to their force as possible. And that's really where the power of crypto is. There's been no other kind of universal tool that we've been able to adopt and use in a way that we can use something without interference from the government. There's always been a way for government to kind of step in. And crypto does this in a very elegant way because it's based on cryptography. And cryptography at the end of the day is math, and in its simplest form, it's just this idea that if I encrypt something with the computer, it's going to take a hell of a lot more energy and power and effort for you to decrypt it, no matter who you are, whether you're an individual or you have the power of the state. So, it's some magic that they don't have, because it's just math and physics at the end of the day. So it's this great equalizer because it puts encryption into the hands of all humans.
So how I see crypto succeeding is that, you said yes, you challenged me and say, that it does provide utility. And right now it provides utility as a way to divide and transfer money in a secret, private, efficient way. Now, the question is, what the hell is it transferring? And you from your side, you're saying itself is the money. And I'm saying that is impossible. Not just from an academic standpoint, but but it's a logical chain that's going to have real consequences in physical reality. If what Monero is doing is dividing money, whatever money is, let's leave that undefined right now. If it's dividing money equally and fairly and fast and secret and private and enabling free societies, then it does have utility. The question is, what happens when the thing that it's dividing dies? Okay, so what I think is going to happen is when the dollar dies, all fiat currencies die, all cryptocurrencies die with it, and then everyone has to go back to gold and silver directly, physically giving coins to each other, because there's going to be no governments, because they're going to have no money to enforce anything, and you're going to have to go back to the original what money is. But I see that I might be wrong on that, and I might be wrong because
so we go back in this scenario where that were to happen, and the internet, let's say the internet still existed. I assume, I don't know, this is a wild scenario, but internet still existed, corporations still exist. Do you then still see utility in people being able to transfer value through the internet peer to peer?
Okay, so here's my answer on that.
How are you doing that with gold? How are you doing that with coins? Yeah.
There's two possibilities. Look, if I'm right, and only gold and silver are money because money has to be something physical, it has to be a commodity that has a use in itself, then instead of just transferring something, if that's true, then you would have Monero, which is not there's no like gold or silver reserve behind Monero that it's dividing in notionally. It's not doing that. And then you could have a cryptocurrency that says, okay, we are backed by this vault of gold somewhere, this vault of silver somewhere, or both, right? But then so then I say, yeah, then what would people go for? They would go for the gold or silver backed crypto. And with let's say it has the same features as Monero, it's private and nobody can track it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but the disadvantage to that is that there's still a vault somewhere that a government can go and steal. It's still there.
Okay? You can't solve the problem, the ultimate problem, which is creating unconfiscatable, censorship-resistant money. So
right. So if that's true, then you would have to have a cryptocurrency that is backed by gold and silver, but that nobody know, but that it's a decentralized backing, like it's all over the world in different vaults and stuff.
That decentralized backing is just belief in the end of the day, and people attributing value to it.
Could be.
That is the decentralized backing. I had one more thought about that, and now I'm blanking on it. But go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So it could be that we make the same mistake with the dollar. We say the dollar isn't backed by gold. True, it's not backed by gold at a certain exchange rate anymore, but it is backed by gold in the sense that I can still come with $2,000 in my hand and go to a coin shop and say, give me a coin, and they'll give it to me. It's still convertible in that way. So in that way, it is still a gold-backed currency.
So is Monero, right?
Yeah, that's the question. That's what I can't.
I could go buy a Monero's worth of gold right now, right?
Yes, you could. But the question I have in my head is that when you are giving a coin shop Monero and they're giving you a gold coin, what the hell is happening? Are they saying, okay, Monero is worth this many dollars and dollars are worth this gold, or are they? I think that's what's happening. I think they're going for dollars.
It's all relative, this is where I get back to, I don't see this as being some law of nature that everything ultimately has to go back to gold. It's not like, Einstein's theory of relativity here, and it's all based on, the speed of light. Like, I don't see why, it's all relative. Value is all relative. Currently, the debate, the base, the measure happens to be gold. And that's what we're using as a unit of account in our minds and have. But at the end of the day, it's all relative. We've just chosen to make that the light of our economic universe. But there's no law of nature saying it has to be, right. At the end of the day, I think we just see it differently, and I just see it as a ledger. But my point to you is that why even argue that? The question becomes, does a system like this have value in a digital world?
Why argue it? Very simply, why argue it? Because when the dollar does fall and there's no more fiat currencies, people with Monero, what are they going to have? Are they going to have value, or are they going to have nothing? I don't know the answer to that.
They're going to have value because the world is going to still value the utility of a network that can transfer value in a censorship-resistant way through the internet. And so they're going to attribute value to that network and use it as a way to transfer value. And you got to realize too, it's based on energy, right? So the first Monero came from mining it using electricity and computing power.
Oh, yeah, but this is a Marxist angle. I'm not. This is
but that's its connection, right? So that's where the competition. So energy is really its base value, right? So it's this competition for.
I have to strongly disagree with that. That's a Marxist point.
That's what proof of work is. That's what allows essentially the network to come to consensus, is through this proof of work process.
Mhm.
So whether or not you think something like a crypto is possible without proof of work is another conversation. But currently, that's the thing that makes the most sense to have if you're trying to build a decentralized system is among computers is something based on proof of work.
Okay.
I don't know what you mean by it. So it's ultimately Marxist, so it can't be money, or what do you mean? What
No.
makes it Marxist?
I'm saying that I'm not saying there's anything morally wrong with a proof of work system, okay? Because no one's forcing anyone to use it, and no one's enslaving anyone based on the fact that Monero is proof of work. I'm just saying that the whole notion that value is derived from the work that goes into it is a Marxist idea, and that really makes me nervous about the people behind Monero. But what could happen is if the Monero system survives the end of fiat currency, and let's say there is no, like, people don't want Monero anymore and it's valueless. If that happens theoretically, then somebody with Monero could get some gold and say, look, I'll make my Monero convertible to gold. If you give me a Monero, I'll give you this gold. Then it could end up being backed by gold and silver and save it. That's possible. But yeah, this whole proof of work thing, the Marxists wanted to say that the value of anything comes from the proletariat and the work that went into it, and then therefore the workers have to have control of the capital to get the capitalists out, and it destroyed society. It's a very dangerous concept.
Okay, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think from that then you can instill that within crypto. That's just the way crypto functions.
Yeah, I know. I know that. I know that. I'm not saying it's a problem for crypto. I'm saying there are similarities, and there's like a rhyme here that automatically sets off my alarm. I'm like, oh, I don't like this idea.
I think obviously. So what your expertise? What did you study in school? Did you study economics? Did you study?
No, that's why I have expertise in economics. I didn't study it in school. I study philosophy. I work my brain works in like symbolic logic all the time. I look for paths and where things go and the ultimate conclusions of things. I just think.
I do feel like you keep trying to, like, take this new technology and you're trying to use a model that you have for looking at the current financial world and understanding money.
That's exactly what I'm doing. I have a skeletal structure in my head, and if it doesn't fit into it, I throw it out.
But what I'm saying is, yeah, but maybe your model, like I said, sure, it's a lot of things can be explained with it to essentially 100% accuracy. But we have this new thing that you're trying to study with it, and I'm asking you to, like, ignore the model for a minute and just say, does it exist in this world? Ignoring your model, does it still have a reason to exist on its own? And then that kind of makes the conversation moot. And you just say, does this tech make sense? Does the world need this in this digital world that we live in? Does it make sense for tech? And then, all right, whether or not it's actually truly money, that's a whole. Okay. You can ignore that conversation.
Okay, so fine. Let me try to throw out my scale.
On its own merits, does it have a purpose to survive and be here for as long as man exists?
Okay, so then let me try to do what you suggested and throw out my model. Okay, it's hard for me, but I'm trying. Does the Monero system have a reason to exist? I don't know.
If I wanted to send you $5 digitally right now, and without the world knowing about it, or without any third party being involved in the transaction anyway, would you see use in that ability for us to do that? Do you think there's things economically that would flow from that?
Oh my God, we're back. That's the problem. You're asking me to throw out the model, and then you throw in the word dollars, and then it goes back into the model. I can't escape it. Like, what am I transferring if there are no dollars?
Value. I want to. There's something I want you to send me. Whatever. I don't know. Something in the mail. I'm buying a book off of you, and I want to give you 30. I want to give you the value of that book, whatever you're valuing it in gold and dollars. You're saying, Doug, send me whatever, 3 pounds worth of value for this book. Okay, whatever you want to value it in, but I'm trying to get value to you digitally through the internet, peer to peer. How can I do that?
But you can only talk in terms of Monero because you're saying that is the value. You're saying you want to give me Monero for the book.
In terms of a network that lets us do that. So whether that's Monero or Bitcoin, but the network that does that the best, allowing us to transfer value peer to peer, right? Okay. And then the value attributed to the network itself, because it does that utility better than anything else, and it becomes the one and only network for that purpose.
Okay, look, I get what you're saying. I can't, and I wish Monero all success, and I hope it works. But you keep telling me like take out all of the juice to my system, and then have it stand up on something, and it keeps falling down in my head, and I can't do it.
Okay, I don't know. I think
okay.
What I'm hearing from you though is that you see there some possible scenario.
I see value to the network, assuming it is dividing and transferring something. Not just Monero, because Monero is the system. You have to fill the system with something inside it to transfer.
It's the value that people are attributing to the system at that time.
Yeah. I can't. That goes back in on itself again. I can't. Okay. Well, so Doug, to close off, you said they were doing a conference in Miami. Anything you want the listeners to know? Come to Miami. It's a free state. I'm from Miami. I really miss Miami. I don't think I'm ever going back there, but thank God for Ron DeSantis and for keeping Florida relatively free. And I'm really proud of where I come from. And yeah. So what's going on in Miami?
How do we get you down there, man, to Monerotopia? I would love for you to be down there.
Maybe I have to renew my passport first.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it's the conference is called Monerotopia. It's going to be an entire day, like 8 a.m. to like 11 p.m. It's a free speech money conference. So I see Monero as being the free speech protocol. So the day is going to start with kind of overarching talks on why liberty itself is important as an ideal, why free speech money is important, and why Monero is kind of currently the best form of that we have. Then it's going to go into the tech behind Monero. We're going to have a bunch of developers there talking about different aspects of Monero. And then we're going to talk about different protocols and technologies that Monero is integrating with. And then at night, we have speakers that are come where we let them essentially self-register, because we kind of ran into issues with speakers and who to allow to speak and who not to allow. So in a way to kind of demonstrate a free speech conference, we allowed speakers in the evening to self-register. So we have a few of those, but that's the theme. It's going to be Monero all day. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was great talking to you. Hope to have you on again at some time. We'll see if there's another crisis and the Monero price goes crazy. Maybe we'll have you on again. Look, if you want to support the Endgame Investor, click on the links below for a 2-week free trial of the Endgame Investor, or be my patron on Patreon, where I give videos of my biblical commentary every week on a liberty theme. We're all on the same team of liberty. We're fighting for it. It will win. I don't know what's going to happen in the world in the next few weeks, tomorrow, a month, a year.
Do you hold crypto? Do you use crypto? Have you used it?
I don't use it. I have a tiny bit of Bitcoin SV that somebody paid me at some point in the past. And I'm holding on to it because maybe maybe it's the real Bitcoin. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe I'll buy some Monero just to hold it. People can speculate on it, and maybe I'm wrong. I wish it luck.
Yeah, you should post the Monero address on Twitter after you post this show. I'll retweet it.
Okay. So yeah, send me the address and I'll put it on Twitter and the link.
Yeah, download Cake Wallet. Cake Wallet, or if you Monero.com wallet. They're basically essentially the same thing, same company. One is a Monero only wallet, the other one has Bitcoin. So Monero, go to Monero.com, you download that wallet, and then if you send me the address or post it on Twitter,
Mhm.
I'll send you some tips. We'll get the Monero community to send you some tips, I'm
Oh,
sure.
great. Yeah, I'm totally for free Monero. I have no
I
problem
mean,
with it.
the best way to get interested in it is to start using it, and you kind of feel the power in it as you use it, and you realize, wow, this person was able to send me this, and nobody knows about it. It was peer to peer.
Great. So I'll download I'll download a Monero wallet and I'll put it in the tip jar below. Maybe I'll get some. It'll be fun. All
Yeah.
right. Good talking to you,
Cool.
Doug.
You too. Nice meeting you.
Bye.